Let's watch it as usual. Let's watch it twice. One more time. Yeah, really short and sweet. So this is the tempo for it. Now there is one part in it that is very difficult for me, and that's the triplet in the beginning, in the first bar. I had to record it a couple of times to get that right, because I am very bad at hybrid picking. Picking like with your pick and your finger. When I started playing guitar, I played gypsy jazz. And gypsy jazz, you just play everything with a pick. But you cannot do this because there's two strings. I guess you could, but you know, it's very difficult to do that. So I thought, yeah, I have to hybrid pick this. And I'm bad at that. I got a little bit better at it. I noticed that you have to not do too much with your fingers, but just pull with your arm. That's usually the answer to a lot of things. I got it from classical violin. Like a lot of stuff on violin can be solved by not trying to use small muscles too much, but really get your big muscles involved, because there's much easier to train. So instead of doing with your fingers, just pull with your arm. So that makes it way easier. Actually, I'm pretty happy. The thing is, though, I'm getting a little bit of a blister on this finger because, again, I'm not used to pick with my finger. Maybe if you have nail, that would be better, but I don't have that. I can't have that for violin. So that is the only part that's very difficult for me. That's funny, actually. On that short where I showed that pentatonic box when I was replying to Double Whiskey, I said I only know the first pentatonic box, and then somebody commented, how is it possible that a knowledgeable guitar player like you only knows one pentatonic box? Same answer. I started guitar with gypsy jazz, and you don't use pentatonic boxes in gypsy jazz. That's why I don't know them. So I can still be very knowledgeable in this one style or two styles, like jazz and gypsy jazz, but doesn't mean I know everything about guitar. And especially with guitar, like every style, that's another instrument. If you play speed metal, that's another instrument than if you play bluegrass, right? Okay, so let's look at this intro and a little bit of theory. So it starts again with a sharp 11 chord. Peter Bernstein loves sharp 11 chords. I even made a short about that. Right, so this F7 sharp 11. Another way to play that chord is, that is also maybe nice to play. So that is 6, 7, 7, 8, 7. That's difficult to play, that chord, but maybe even nicer than, which would be more the standard way to play. So we get that that hybrid picking thing where you play that with a pick, you play the D string, and then with your second finger you play the high E string. And then you have to play with your first and fourth finger, because Peter Bernstein plays this chord at the end. So it says in the tab this. Actually, you could just play the whole chord, like that. I think Peter Bernstein is just playing those two notes, which is also a nice effect. But you can also play the whole chord. I like that. Rhythmically, you get 3, 4. So first you have to take the tempo in your head of the tune. So if it's My Ideal, so the tune of My Ideal goes like this. So, so you first have to get the tempo, and then you have to play this intro exactly in that tempo. 3, 4. That's rhythmically, it just keeps going, right? 3, 4, 1. Triplet, eighth notes, eighth notes. Now there's this really one jump that's pretty tricky. That's this one. So I've tried it several ways. I've tried to do it with my So it's A flat minor 7, and then with my pinky, that's fine. I'll try with my third finger. But I think it's too much action for the third finger. You play the chord here, you play this note, and then it's also in the next. So I prefer this to be another finger. So in the end, I landed on the second finger. It seems kind of weird that I'm passing the fret I have to go, and then I have to immediately switch back. But here's an interesting thing that a lot of people don't really realize about instrument technique. It's a thing that comes from violin technique. Again, the same thing I just talked about. Like big muscles will make a lot of complicated movement much easier to learn. So one of the complicated movements on guitar are position changes, where you have to move your hand to another fret. A lot of people make the mistake of focusing on their fingers to do it. So let's say you have to play an E and an A. So like that finger is like, let me make the screen bigger. The finger is like aiming for that A, like something like that. Like even Stockholm would do that. He's obviously very good at it, and there's nothing wrong with it in the sense that you could still have good results. But the better way to train yourself is to first look at where your hand should end up to play that note without having to move the fingers. So for me to play this A with my third finger, I have to move my whole hand to the 8th fret. And that movement can be done with the arm, right? It's made with my arm, not with my fingers. I just move my arm like that. This movement is very easy to train. You can train your arm to make these movements without getting tired, without making mistakes. It's just training the distance. Now, the only thing I have to do is then make the movement to there and then put my third finger down. And it would be the same as if I would stay in position. That would be the same thing as that. The only thing that's happening is my arm is moving between those two positions. But my fingers are doing the same thing. That's a good thing to realize about technique in general. I'm not sure that people in the guitar world think about it like this. They probably do. But in violin, that's how you train your position changes. And it's very important on violin because there's no frets. So you really have to train that arm to memorize all the positions. On guitar, you can look at the frets and then you get this thing. But no, do the same way. So if you have to go from the movement is like this to here to there. So I'm training that movement with my arm. And then I just put my fingers down. Yeah. Okay, let's look at harmonically. F7. And then we have a A flat minor to E flat. And I said it's weird, but there's this thing in jazz called the backdoor dominant, where you have just a dominant whole step down. So D flat 7 in this case to E flat. I talked about it last time. And if you want to have a 2 chord in front of that dominant, backdoor dominant, D flat 7, it would actually be A flat minor 7. So it's actually just the backdoor 2. We would call it the backdoor 2. And he just chooses not to resolve it to D flat. He just keeps that chord. Okay, from the beginning. So there we have again this position change from this D flat to this A flat. Same thing. Move your hand. So don't reach with your pinky. Just do. So the movement slowly would be right. Of course, we don't want to hear that E flat. So. So we play this voicing for C7, C7 sharp 9, flat 13. Right? Really pretty on those middle strings. I really like that. I started playing middle string stuff like that because of Peter Bernstein. He used that so much, and then he resolved it to F7, and then we get this really pretty sequence for F7 to B flat 7. The problem here is the jump from G minor 7 to this B7 flat 5. But there's no third in it, there's a 9 in it. So B7 flat 5, 9 or something without the third. But the problem is to have the melody there. So you want to hear, really take care of those top notes. The problem is this chord, to have this first finger flat enough to really have this F there. And Peter Bernstein actually just plays an E flat. He just plays that. He plays. But I wanted the chord there, so I went with. And if you want, you can play that bass note there. And then we have just a line for E flat. In the video itself, on that last bar, the other guitar player is playing like a bass note already. So that's why Peter Bernstein just plays a single note line. Because Peter Bernstein, of course, is improvising these intros. So let's play the whole thing. 3, 4. Beautiful, right? Now, I was thinking, could you use this in gypsy jazz? Like a ballad in E flat? I don't know. But there is a ballad in D called Dans Norvégienne, right? Da-da-dee, da-da-da. So you could play this whole thing in D probably pretty easy. So here you have a problem because you cannot play open strings, so you have to play something else. So maybe play that. So. And now for E minor, you have to play. But you shouldn't end on the major 7 chord. You should end on the 6. But then you have 2 A's in a row. Let's see. Maybe if we start that phrase earlier. Let's see. Yeah. So if you want to play it for Dans Norvégienne, you could play it like this: 3, 4. Da dee doo, da dee doo, da da doo, da 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 da. Right. So beautiful intro, I think. I think it's tenderly, right? Tenderly, you can play in E flat or D. So yeah, this is great. So just remember that you have to take the tempo of the tune. So tenderly might be a little bit too fast, right? Da da dee dee, da da dee da, da dee da. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's too fast. Then you have to think of something else. Then you have to. Maybe you have to play. Then you have to maybe play freely and then get into the tempo in the last bar or something. Let's say I played an E flat. Da da dee dee. Right, so you could do like that. Or play tenderly as a ballad. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I've usually played it in like medium tempo, but again, I said before, you can play any intro for ballads by just stopping on the 5 chords and then playing something in the tempo. So you could just stop here. Right? Something like that. Beautiful little intro. I think I want to continue this series with intros. So if you find a good intro by anyone, until now we did 1 Pasquale Grasso intro and 2 Peter Bernstein intros. If you find a good intro, send it to me on my Discord, preferably. Send me a message or post it in the general channel, and then I'll take a look at it. Okay, great.